Of age story started in middle age. Well, a hilarious new memoir that explores love, loss, dating, and pretty much life after 40 shows that women can thrive through the treacherous waters of adulthood and maybe have a little fun along the way. So joining us live now for more on her debut book, In Search of Mr. Darcy, is author Christina Ford. Christina, welcome to CP24 Breakfast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I love this book. I just want to say I have never laughed out loud so much in public, not caring what I look like reading a book. I was taking my son on the TTC. You have really written a memoir that feels like Sex and the City, but I want to say more real, because there are parts in Markham, Ontario, where your first husband proposes to you and you just capture the essence of it. So what prompted you to write, I wouldn't just say it's a dating memoir, because you go into your life, your work as an executive producer and your, wisdom from your dad. So what spurred this?
Strangely enough, a bad breakup did. I moved to, followed a man to London, England. I thought he was my Mr. Darcy. Then the relationship went kaboom. And it was like, oh my God, now I'm actually here again. I'm reinventing. And I started writing. I wrote a blog called Abroad in London. And so, but it was the first time in my adult life that I was writing something other than, an angry email. So
that's so funny. You have such a comedic voice. And I love that, you talk about your idea of Mr. Darcy, obviously inspired by Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice, and how young girls, women, are fed this notion of, the romantic fairy tale, the happily ever after. Well, what happens after,
Well, this is it. This is what we are defined from little girls. But that was that moment where all of a sudden, we had fairy tales growing up and Cinderella and we loved those. But there was a point where I realized, oh, hang on a second, well, as an adult, we're still being fed fairy tales. And whether it's through Jane Austen or every Julia Roberts rom-com we've ever watched, right? The message is there. And I just wanted to re-look at that message, because I don't think we need rescuing. And this is what every story tells us, that we as women need to be rescued.
Right, and even, looking at Bridget Jones's Diary, which was kind of inspired by Pride and Prejudice, you're like, I don't know why people she felt sorry for herself or thought she was a loser. She had friends, she had her own nice flat in London, she had a job, she's winning.
She would be what we would call, if she were a guy, marriage material, husband material. So, I mean, it is bizarre in that regard, how we look at things.
Right, so this book is divided into chapters, kind of like Book of Alan, starting with your dad, which I thought was really special, paying tribute to how, your relationship with him as a young girl, what he taught you. You say women kind of marry men like their fathers, but you say that you became your father.
And
he's a funny man, isn't he?
He to my detriment and to my benefit. Like, I mean, he just dealt with everything with humor, even when humor wasn't needed. So I think somewhere along the lines, in order to survive, I just became my father in how I deal with humor. And that the formula for comedy is time plus tragedy. And you know what? And if anyone knows how to, crawl out of a romantic failure of a relationship, it's me. And I've learned through that. And but humor is essential in going through life.
Right, but your relationship with your father, with your first marriage proposal, you said you were married at or engaged at 23, married at 25, divorced at 26. Your father did not want to have any part of a real marriage ceremony when you said yes to former Swedish hockey player Brandon. And your relationship was kind of a little frictional.
You know what? I knew I shouldn't have married Brandon. He was the sweetest, loveliest guy, but it wasn't right. But still, the voices in my head, everyone's like, oh, Christina, you're so lucky, and he's such a great guy. And my father, not anything to do with the man himself, but he decided he wasn't showing up for the wedding. And it wasn't until literally an hour before the wedding where he calls me in and says, what should I be wearing? And that was how I found out my father was coming to the wedding.
Wow. And also, maybe you shouldn't have married him because his last name was Clutterbuck. And Christina Clutterbuck, that's the part I laughed out at. You're at the bar thinking, oh, he's so hot, he's so cute, he's got massive thighs the size of my torso. But Clutterbuck?
Clutterbuck,
That's his real, no, is that his real last name?
No, but, but you know what? It's as equally as odd.
Okay,
So,
yes. One thing you should know, that all the names of the men in this book have been kind of changed, but the essence of the story, the memory of it, it's all real.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
Christina,
yeah.
I can't wait for people to read In Search of Mr. Darcy. I think it's the perfect summer read, and you were absolutely hilarious. I'm so happy to have met you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm
Thank you.
so thrilled that you enjoyed it.
It's awesome.
It's a
Thanks
fun
so
ride.
much.